We'll talk some baseball with Steve Lyons. What's up, Steve? Steve.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing really good. So what do you think? Should what is it? It's John Farrell, right?
Yeah.
In Boston. Is he manager of the year? How could he not be? I mean, everyone's saying
Francona,
they're saying, but come on, how do you not give it to the guy in Boston?
That's so funny. It's almost like, you have to think about it when you think of who the manager of the Red Sox was this year, because, I mean, this is a guy who he pretty much lied in the weeds, didn't he? He didn't make a lot of noise. He came in, set the tone for his team, and then let them go out and play. I don't think there's any way they can't give it to him. Francona did a nice job. Bob Melvin did a nice job again, second year in a row with the A's. But you're talking about a guy who took a team that was pretty much terrible last year, and they had a bunch of moving parts, a bunch of new guys coming in this year, and put them together, let them go out and play, and they win a World Series. So, if that's not manager of the year, I don't know what is.
Yeah, what did Francona do that was so special? Didn't they lose in the first round of the playoffs?
Yeah, but that was a crappy team that was never supposed to make the playoffs anyway. So he did a nice job there, too, turning things around and getting them on track. But, it's the difference between taking a team to the playoffs and taking a team all the way through the playoffs and winning the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a goofy award because you start to say, if a guy wins the World Series, how is he not manager of the year? But if you look back to, in the year 2000 when Torrey won his third in a row with the personnel that team had, sometimes you go, okay, they were supposed to win, blah, blah, blah. But if ever there was a year where, the guy who won the World Series is clearly the manager of the year, it's this year.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, you guys, we've talked about this before. You know my opinion on managers as well. I think they get way more credit and generally get more blame, too.
Right.
I think baseball is a funny game where somehow managers, they'll put their players in position to do what they're supposed to do. And if they don't do it, nobody ever blames the player. They always blame the manager somehow. There always has to be blame in the game of baseball. It's never just that the other team found a way to execute better than we did and they beat us. We have to blame the other manager if he messed up something. And on the other side of that, I look at it and say, look, there's, you and I and two other guys can get together and manage a team. If you give us good players, as long as we end up being good babysitters and know the basics of the game, I believe that we could go out there and be competitive and have a chance to win. To me, Sparky Anderson always said it the best. He said, you give me good players, I'll be a good manager. If you don't give me good players, I won't be.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excellent point. And Earl Weaver always said a great line, too. He goes, my best secret weapon as a manager is a 3-run homer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sit around and wait. Get two guys on and get my big boppers up there.
Yeah.
You feel like you're good with Clint Hurdle winning it for the NL?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that you just mentioned, like with Don Mattingly, I think there was enough people at the beginning of the season that said that Don Mattingly and the Dodgers should win with the payroll that they had and the players that they had. They got off to an abysmal start. They had a bunch of injuries. They eventually put it together, and they did play better. But at some point in time, I think a lot of people will say, well, that was a team that was supposed to win.
Right.
And when you're looking at Clint Hurdle, I mean, it's taken them a few years there, but I loved what he's done with that club and got them to the playoffs this year for the first year since '92. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if he won it, and I don't think I'd shed a tear about it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we were just discussing about, the reasons that an organization might move where they play, and, Atlanta leaving Turner Field. Turner Field not in the best of neighborhoods. I mean, do you think that's a delicate situation where, Major League Baseball is going, listen, we need to be in a better neighborhood if we want people to come? A lot of times they don't sell out playoff games. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it is an odd situation. I mean, we're talking about a stadium that's been there, less than 20 years or something like that?
Yeah, 17.
Just over 20 years. I think that's a tough situation. But you're going to build a brand new stadium when this one's still very much viable. It's not in the greatest area, but nobody hangs around there when there's not a game. When there's a game, people show up there, and they make that area a much safer place to be hanging around. It is a very nice stadium to play in and to watch a game at. So I guess I don't really get the reasoning of why they want to bail here. I mean, there's not unlimited money for the taxpayers to go foot the bill for new stadiums every 20 years. And you look at places like Fenway and Wrigley and now Dodger Stadium, which is the third oldest stadium in all of baseball. These stadiums are still viable for many, many years. You can't just bail after 20 years and say, we want a better place to play.
That's a good point. I mean, and look what the Yankees did. I mean, the Yankees, that neighborhood is kind of rough. Put it this way, if you got somebody a month of free parking outside Yankee Stadium, it'd be a lot less in the month of February than it would be in June. Nobody does hang around it. But you're right. I think it really is a bad sign they're bailing it. To me, it's like, okay, listen, bite the bullet a little bit and go to Turner Field. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to know a whole lot more about, who's financing this, who's paying for it, what, are the taxpayers paying for it? Because if they are, I can't imagine that they would be behind, wanting to build another stadium that generally costs between, $700 million and $1 billion
right.
to redo a new stadium, especially, if you look at Yankee Stadium, what was that? Ended up being like $1.5 billion. That's, if I'm a citizen in Atlanta and they're going to ask me to pay for that, I might say, well, wait a minute. Don't we have a pretty nice place to play already?
No way. You're right. Absolutely not. I'd be way against it as a taxpayer. That's a good point. What about the A-Rod situation? He goes on, he says, look, I'm fighting for my life. Those are the terms he uses. I'm fighting for my life. I'm a human being. Stop persecuting me. And then he's at Leonardo DiCaprio's birthday party, fighting for his life on a yacht. I mean, what's going to happen with this guy? Time has gone on. It's kind of disappeared. Do you hear anything about what's going to happen with the suspension and his relationship with the Yankees and baseball in general?
Well, his relationship with the Yankees and baseball is bad. And he's brought a lot of this on himself. There's no question about that. And I believe him. He is fighting for his baseball life. Of course, fighting for your baseball life when you have $200 million in the bank,
right,
and fighting for your baseball life when you're a career AAA player and you have, a $50,000 debt are two different things. I still believe that A-Rod loves the game of baseball and wants to continue to play it, maybe for the love of the game. But he's kind of made his own bed. However, I don't believe that he should be treated any differently than any other player.
Sure.
When they're talking about this 211-game suspension, where the heck did that come from? Just because it's A-Rod and because people decide that they don't like him and he's a high-profile player and because he's owed millions and millions still and baseball doesn't want to see him get paid and the Yankees don't want to pay it? It's just wrong. I think that he needs to be treated under the exact same rules that everyone else is treated under, and then let the chips fall where they may, let due process take its course. Do it the way they would do it if it was Steve Lyons instead of A-Rod, and then let him see if he can fight his way back.
Well, I agree with it. Just because the Yankees don't want to pay it, that's awful. The Yankees have been, this big corporation for a long time, and they should have to pay. If they made their bed, they should lie in it. That's for
absolutely.
damn
It's
sure.
one of those situations where normally, if a player got in any kind of trouble or in a situation like this, generally the organization would be standing behind the player saying, hey, we still want this guy. We want him to play for us. We don't know what the issues are, blah, blah, blah. But this is a situation where the team he's playing for doesn't want him back. They don't want to pay him. So I think that's ironic and an odd situation to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, curious, this time of year when you were playing, what were you doing? Were you heading, working out, or were you letting your joints heal? What was your, weekly routine in November?
I'm going to Leo's party.
Yeah, I'd assume.
Besides that, obviously.
I'll answer for him. I assume you'd be knee deep in Hooter's ass.
Yeah, exactly. No, about this time, I'd definitely start working out again. About a month off, depending on whether you make the playoffs or not. I never did, so the month of October off, and in November you got to get rolling again.
Right.
I happen to be in San Francisco tonight. I'm playing a charity golf tournament tomorrow, so that's what I'm doing now because I don't have to worry about getting in shape anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That sounds like fun.
Right now, with about a 6-ounce curl of Bacardi and Diet Coke.
Oh, good for you. If you're
Nice.
still on that dead end street, fine. But we have a lot of young listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys are worried about that.
What do you think about the NL Rookie of the Year, Jose Fernandez, beating out Yasiel Puig? I was a little
Hey,
surprised.
I worked for the Dodgers all year long. I saw Puig play. He was a special guy, but he still has a lot to learn. He was a little out of control, and he kind of took a nosedive towards the end of the year. He's overly aggressive. He's a young kid. He'll learn. And I kind of think that Fernandez was a little more polished. And, at the end of the day, I have no problems with him winning the award. I mean, I could sit here and throw my arms up and say, oh, my God, we got, he got robbed on this deal. But, I think it was legit. Had Puig won, then I would have been able to say probably the same thing, that, that he may have deserved the award as well because of what he actually did for the Dodgers when he showed up. It became a completely different team, whether or not he was the most consistent player or not. So, I don't have any problem with what happened there.
Okay.
Well, Steve, we got to roll. I appreciate you talking to us. Listen, get right to bed and enjoy playing in the tournament. We do appreciate taking the time out, and maybe during the offseason we'll talk to you a couple times more, if you don't mind.
All right. Anytime, guys. I'll do it. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Steve. Be well. The great Steve Lyons.
The Artie Lange Show. Weeknights on Audience. Only on DirecTV.